All right, we are live. I am here. My name is Dylan. Welcome everybody here. I am the content marketer here at SparkLoop. I am joined by the lovely gentleman you see on the screen here with me. I've got Justin Moore from Creator Wizard and Matt Ragland from Automatic Evergreen, among a few other places as well. So I'm going to let these guys give us an introduction, but I wanted to just welcome everybody here with us. And if you're new to Fireside Chats, which it's kind of funny. I don't see you guys aren't Fireside, are you? So neither am I. We need to get some firesides going. But this is only our second ever Fireside Chat. We had one a few weeks ago, and I'm really excited to host this one here. The really how these go is we just have kind of a casual chat all about newsletters. And so I've brought a couple highly regarded gentlemen in the industry with a lot of knowledge and experience with newsletters, especially like a creator-focused newsletter. So we're going to be talking all about that today. And before I let them introduce each other, I just want to go over a few housekeeping topics. One is I want you guys to, if you have questions for Justin and Matt, please hit them in the chat. We are going to try to cover as many as we can, but this is kind of an open session. I'm going to be pitching them some questions, but we'd love to have some from the crowd as well. And we'll have an AMA kind of session towards the end. And then I'm also wanting you to share where you're watching from. And if you want, share your Twitter URL and share maybe your newsletter link too, because we'd love to check those out as well. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Justin and Matt. You guys can do rock, paper, scissors to see who wants to go first for your introduction.
Well, JAG is alphabetically closer in the alphabet, so I think I'm going to go first. What do you think, Matt?
Okay.
My name is Justin Moore. I'm the founder of Creator Wizard, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream sponsorships. So I've been a creator. First YouTube channel in particular started in 2009. So we call ourselves OG creators, that tribe who's been on the internet for a very long time. Been a full-time creator for 9 years, and also ran an influencer marketing agency for about 7 years. So I have a perspective of like being a creator in the trenches for many years, doing hundreds of sponsorships along with my wife, but also have been on the other side of it, in the room with brands and agencies where they're deciding how to spend 6 figures or even 7 figures on partnerships with creators. And so most recently, over the last 3 years or so, I've kind of doubled down on creator education, specifically with respect to sponsorships. But just generally, I'm excited to be here to talk all about newsletter strategy and monetization and all that stuff, because my newsletter, I have a newsletter with almost 30,000 creators on it now. And it's become, I would say, one of the primary engines of my business. So I'm happy to chat, excited to chat all about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I can just say from the beginning, the person that I refer probably the most to other people is Justin. So I just want to say, he is the guy that, right, when people are like, what do I do about sponsors? Don't listen to me. Stop listening to me. Go talk to Justin. Go follow him. Go buy his course. So really a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dylan, for inviting me. And my name is Matt. It's nice to see lots of familiar names in the chat as well. So shout out to all of you who are showing up. I got my start. I started my first email newsletter, I believe it was in 2012. So I'm a little over 10 years in the email marketing game. I've done all of them. I've run newsletters on Aweber. May it rest in peace. If it's not dead yet, it soon will be. MailChimp, Infusionsoft, Die Forever, but most specifically and most importantly is ConvertKit. So I was employee number 5 at ConvertKit. I was one of the very early members of the customer success team. I started the account onboarding program, or migration and onboarding. So I have had the pleasure of working with thousands of creators, and many that you have heard of, which is really exciting and very fortunate thing that I've been able to do. I also worked for a couple of years at Podia, which some of you may be familiar with. It's a great course and really product platform for creators. But in 2021, I went out on my own as well to become a full-time creator. I had, of course, like built my own email list, and in addition, have on a bit of a like longer hiatus than I expected, but a YouTube channel that is a little over 60,000 subscribers at this point. So I've run podcasts. I ran a 18-month podcast back in like 2014. Wonder what would have happened if I stuck with that 9 years later. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about all of this. Right now, I'm running an agency that our primary service is called Automatic Evergreen. And what we do is we help prolific creators, influencers, founders, entrepreneurs build and develop an email newsletter, which is obviously we're going to talk about a lot, but it's a done for you newsletter service. So all you have to do is say, hey, write a newsletter for me. And we would have some more conversations about that, but we would be able to do the whole thing for you.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I'll link to, I just set your Twitter links in the chat here so people can follow you both. I'll link to your other stuff towards the end, your websites and newsletters and all that stuff too. So, but why don't we get into it? I think, the first thing that I want to start off was everybody knows the way algorithms work, the way social media platforms work. Building an audience there can be definitely a scary thing and probably a very risky thing. So we all know you need to build an email list, right? As a creator, that's kind of one of the first things you hear as well. But let's say you've built up an email list. You've somehow gotten, a lot of subscribers, which is not an easy feat. So congrats if you've done that. But what do you do from there? You've created this email list. You have maybe 30,000 subscribers sitting on a list and you're not emailing them. Justin, you might have some experience with this. What happens? You obviously don't want to just let them sit there and die on the vine, right? What's the next thing you should do?
So quick anecdote there. Your thing. I was on the podcast with Louis, Send and Grow, like a couple weeks ago, and shared this story that when my wife and I first started on YouTube, we started dabbling in this kind of like, okay, exclusive content, membership, community, like paid stuff. And we had partnered with a company who was like very much like, you got to have a newsletter. It's like a really important, component of, doing the email marketing for the launch and all this stuff too. And so we had no idea what we were doing. And so we very easily, I'm not even going to joke with you, dude, we got 30,000 people to join our newsletter in like 2 or 3 weeks. All we did was we made a couple, like this was like the height of, I would say, kind of like our YouTube influence, maybe of viewership and all this stuff too. So it was like very, fairly easily compared to the slog of getting 30,000 over the last 3 years for me, right? Like that was crazy. And so we did exactly what you just said, which was that we did the list, we emailed them a few times. The paid community we ultimately launched didn't work out, and then we basically stopped emailing the list for 5 years, basically. So we were sitting on this like gold mine of like contacts for many, many years. And then when we decided, okay, we need to actually like re-engage, let's try and salvage this list, let's run a re-engagement campaign. Of the 30,000, 1,000 re-opted in. And so it was just like, oh God, it was like, so I was like crying myself to sleep, like thinking about what could have been. And so after that experience, when I really started doubling down on my newsletter in earnest, like to answer your question, like the number one most important piece of advice is just like email your list regularly. Like if possible, like once a week is ideal, once every 2 weeks, like especially like I would say one major insight that I had is that when I started the email list, I thought, okay, I'm going to like, maybe email them every now and then, but mainly it's going to be when I'm like launching something, right? That was like the idea in my head. And so what I would do is that prior to a launch, I would send kind of like pre-launch emails, maybe 6 weeks or 5 weeks prior to the launch. I would start sending kind of some, informational stuff, like trying to kind of warm up the audience, get them to understand that I'm going to be like sending you this offer in like 6 weeks or so. But it was like the major inflection point for me was when I decided, you know what? I am not going to do this whole kind of pre-launch thing. I'm just going to like send useful stuff to my list all the time. So rather than it looking at like the launches as kind of the major milestones of where I would kind of send, useful stuff around, I was just like, I'm just going to like be useful and serve people all the time. And so I think that's really kind of my major advice is that like, rather than looking at your email list as just like a tactic, as a way to like, sell people stuff. It's like, how can you look at it more holistically in terms of how it fits in your content business?
Justin, I couldn't disagree more. That is such a load of crap. All you need to do is just wait, and then the money comes in. I'm kidding. Just trying to like generate some
some debate.
I'll think of some more like hyperbolic stances. Yeah.
So where's the hot?
There you go.
I couldn't agree more. So, bad debate show, but I couldn't agree more. And it is the place where people have the most difficulty with staying consistent with their list. And one of the things I know we'll get into this, I believe we will, is okay, I'm supposed to email weekly. I would say at worst monthly, best weekly. So what are you sending? What are we sending that is that helpful stuff? Because it does seem, here, I'll push back a little bit. Helpful stuff is so vague, Justin. What is helpful stuff? Now, that's where we start thinking about, and we can discuss a little bit, is like, how does social media play into this? And where do you generate some of these ideas? By creating content in public, whether that is YouTube videos or threads or LinkedIn posts, whatever it is, I bet, Justin, because this is what happened for me when I was thinking about, okay, not only what kind of videos do I want to do next on YouTube, but what do I want to be talking about in my emails? If you are doing that content somewhere else, you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber, you're a thread boy or gal, then the place to find that content is in the comments. And so the first like 10 videos that I did when my YouTube channel started taking off was people just asking in comments like, oh, you said this little thing in the video, I didn't quite understand it, or I was really interested, but then you just kind of moved on because it wasn't part of like that part of the video. I made another video about that thing, and then I wrote about it more in my newsletter. So if you're creating content and if you are engaging with people, and even if, because this is a normal thing that I get, people are saying like, oh, well, I don't have, 60,000 subscribers. I don't have like, 10,000 followers on Twitter or whatever. So I can't like generate that kind of, those kind of comments. Find content in your niche that other people are talking about and look in their comments and start writing your own response to those things. Like when I think about like how to be helpful, it's often in answering common questions, either to your own content or to content that other people are generating in a similar like topic or channel to you. Because when you do that, and we'll talk more about like, hey, how do I gonna get over writer's block? How do I like actually say, how do I know that this something is worth sending? But sending consistently, ideally weekly, you can put together a format. We'll talk about format, but you can put together a format that is going to make sense and is going to be helpful. One of the biggest like unlocks that I want all of you to have is that often your email newsletters can be shorter than you expect for them to be, especially if you get stuck kind of thing like, like what is an like 700 words, 1,000 words, 2,000 words? I don't know. It's kind of changed, especially with the ship 30fication of like the Twitterverse over the last couple of years. A couple hundred helpful words, like once a week, in my opinion, about one single idea or one specific thing that you can help with is more effective as a consistent long-term strategy. I mean, like, oh, I'm just going to wait until I have like I'm going to wait till I have the big idea. It's better if you have like a piece of content, even if you're thinking, I'm going to do this once a month and it's going to be a longer form piece. I would rather you chop that up into like 4 different like subtopics and deliver it over the course of week to week than do like a big thing every month. Or you could do a big thing pretty much every week, like Chanel, who's in the chat. So shout out to Chanel. Big fan of her.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. It actually, when I was thinking through some of these topics here, one thing that came to mind is you mentioned, creating content, and we're talking about splicing it up in a newsletter. So like, what comes first though, as a content creator, like the content or the newsletter, like chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? Because you kind of have to have one to have the other to a degree. So what would your advice be to a creator who's like, well, I've got this content over here, but I want to grow my newsletter. So should I grow the newsletter by pointing people at it, or you know what I mean? Like what would be your best advice for somebody who's kind of stuck in that conundrum?
I would say that writing a newsletter doesn't really mean that the newsletter is going to grow. And that's probably my like unconventional opinion, because often because a newsletter can be kind of a closed system, and like unless you have a referral program and like SparkLoop, then like how are people going to share? Because I have seen a decrease in newsletter shares like over the past few years. People are just like, oh, click the link in the newsletter to share on Twitter. People aren't doing that as much now. Referral programs and networks like SparkLoops or ConvertKits that just rolled out, or like some of the other less other newsletter tools that we won't get into. Those will help you grow. But I think that is a distinction that I don't think many people have wrapped their minds around, that just writing your newsletter will not grow your newsletter. And we can talk more about like how to do that. But that's one like quick point that I wanted to make.
I approach this very holistically. Like I repurpose the heck out of everything that I do. So for example, I have a lot of different, I'm pumping out a lot of content on a weekly basis, not just the newsletter, but I look at the newsletter oftentimes as kind of the original source of truth that I'm able to harvest a lot of other content that I can repurpose from. So I know, Matt, your model when you help people make newsletters is oftentimes, going and looking at their back catalog of their blog or something like that and being able to like, turn those into newsletters and so on. I hope I'm not misrepresenting what you do, but like,
no, that's very accurate.
Yeah. And so I don't have that. I don't have a huge back catalog really. I have YouTube videos, so I can kind of do that. But like, I am interested in like creating new and unique ideas. I believe that that's like what's going to differentiate me and continue to make people like you, Matt, refer others to me, is like continue to just be kind of at the bleeding edge of talking about sponsorship strategy and all this stuff too. And so what I do is I look at my weekly. I actually 3 times a week now. So I've got my Monday mindset email, which is an original think piece around sponsorship strategy. I've got my Thursday newsletter, which is a digest of sponsorship opportunities. And then I've got an evergreen nurture sequence on Saturdays, which is like resurfacing stuff from the back catalog of our blog and videos and all that stuff too, for people that join the list. And so the Monday newsletters, oftentimes so here's what I do, for example, is I have a Monday newsletter that comes out. And then on Fridays, I have a live stream about the exact same topic. So it's literally called the exact same title. And I literally read it word for word on the live stream. It's like, maybe it's like 5 points, like to like get more sponsorships this summer or whatever it is. And I repackage it slightly. But the beauty of that is that I'm able to not only, people learn in different formats. So they may, number one, they may not even have seen that like email. Number two, I'm able to download the live stream and repurpose it for shorts. I cut it up, make it for short form content. And the live stream element, you're able to interact with people live. So I know this is this conversation is around newsletters and stuff, but I would really encourage everyone to think about how newsletters can play a bigger role in your content strategy more generally, because everyone in your audience learns differently. And I think it is a pretty important point to like, think about how it can work for you. And I just full disclosure, I want to say, I do have a team now that helps me with some of this stuff, because I know it can be kind of overwhelming to people as you're starting out. And so maybe it's just something simple. Like, okay, I'm going to take my Monday newsletter and I'm just going to like repost the exact same thing on LinkedIn. On a LinkedIn newsletter, we do that, right? And at the very bottom, we have a call to action. Hey, if you want more detailed stuff, join my newsletter on ConvertKit or whatever. So just wanted to mention that.
I think it's a great point too. And you touched on the words content strategy. And so just to pivot a little bit, how would the Instagram creator, influencer, how would they look at a content strategy? How would they incorporate a newsletter into their content strategy versus somebody who is doing primarily writing? Because Instagram is much more visual. Obviously, videos are a much bigger part in Instagram now. So how do you convert that audience to a written form like a newsletter? What would be your advice there?
Go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say that, how many of you have looked at an Instagram post and you just see this long caption beneath it? Like, that is, if not at times, depending on who you're following, a newsletter unto itself. It's at the very least a content outline for what you would say in a newsletter. So I would think about, especially for people who are doing more visual based, and you could say, YouTube is obviously very visual as well. Podcasting is very audio specific. So there are three types of content conventions that I think through when I'm looking at how to remix or repurpose something into a newsletter. And I'm trying to think about, what's the story behind this? Is there a system that I can share? And is there a study that I can relate or link to? So if we look at like each of those three, is there a story I can tell? Is there a system I can share? Or is there a study that I can link to? If one of those three things can be present in any type of content, and this is regardless of the channel or if it's audio or video, if one of those is present, then I have something to start with on a newsletter. And ideally, there is one that is like the core like message. It's the story, the system, or the study. But you can also say like, hey, here's the story. And because of it, I developed this system, and it makes sense because like, here's a study that relates to it. All of those things can be present, but one can be very like the main message of it. So if you're thinking about Instagram, TikTok, anything that isn't writing derived, writing inspired, think about like, what am I really saying here, and how can I use that as the starting point for a newsletter?
Great points, man. I think one of the we all, I think, oftentimes, especially anyone who's probably on this webinar, it's kind of meta, right? Because a lot of people, we subscribe to lots of other people who have newsletters, and you were mentioning kind of the thread boy ship 30 for 30 kind of effect, Matt. Like, but I think it's really important to remember that for most people, not everyone, but for most people, like a lot of people in your audience are not subscribed to a lot of newsletters. Like we're inundated because we're like hyper focused on the space. But like, if you're a lifestyle creator or you're a, food blogger or something like that, a lot of times those people are like, your audience is not going to be inundated by the same types of emails that you think they are. And so I think it's a really, really important exercise to just try to talk to some of your audience members and maybe even get on a call, like send out a survey. I'm trying to understand a little bit more about your content consumption behaviors, like obviously say it in a more appropriate way to like resonate with your audience. But like, for example, if you get on a Zoom call or a DM or something and you start asking people about like their lives and their behaviors and more psychographic information about them, it may help you realize like, wow, they don't just want like more on the newsletter. They want something fundamentally different. I think that's a really big mistake that a lot of people make, is like, join my newsletter because I'm going to send you more. I'm going to send you more of this stuff. And like, that's not a really great incentive for people to actually join. And so it's got to be something like, I'm going to send you something completely different or exclusive or some other value proposition that you're not going to get on social media, I think.
Right. And on that, I like you mentioned the word exclusive, and that reminds me as well of, what you offered, Justin, with your Creator Wizard newsletter, where, people basically make one referral and they get something a little bit more exclusive to you, right? Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Sure. And how you've approached that as, if we pivot maybe a little bit to growth?
Talk about mistakes. Like I tried every lead magnet under the sun. Right. I tried checklists and I tried the high sugar content, like, oh, get this like template and blah, 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 blah. Like what I thought, I didn't know what I'm doing. That's the thing. Like I tried what I thought you were supposed to do. And growth was just kind of, what growth was like? This was growth. That was growth. That was how growth felt for the first like 2 years, basically. And then basically, and so what ended up happening was, quick story, like my wife and I have been doing this for so long, and I ran the agency for so long that I just see so much deal flow in our inbox on a weekly basis. There's so many opportunities that are just at a threshold that we pretty much would not entertain, but it's super meaningful to a lot of people. $500, $1,000, $200, like that is really meaningful to a lot of people. And so I was like, what if I just took these links to apply for these campaigns and shared them in my newsletter? And so I did that, and people just went nuts. They were like, what is this? Can I actually apply to these? Like, are you sending me sponsorship opportunities now? And so I just took a hard pivot, and I basically got rid of all the lead magnets, and I said, you know what I'm going to send you every week? Paid sponsorship opportunities for free, like in my newsletter. You want it or not, basically, right? And so I think that's like another really important insight here, is that, it is something that It's the promise of future content that ultimately is what I'm not just this like downloadable checklist, all this stuff. It's like every week I'm going to be sending you this thing. And then to your point, Dylan, in line in the newsletter, as part of my SparkLoop referral bonus program, I have a locked section basically where it's like, hey, we are doing every week, in addition to these opportunities that you can apply to, we are doing additional super detailed research about other brands and companies that are sponsoring creators. So we take someone who has just published a podcast sponsorship or a YouTube sponsorship or something. We say, okay, that brand clearly sees value in partnering with creators. Who is the person who's likely responsible for executing that deal with the brand? What's their LinkedIn URL? What's their email address? What are pitching angles? What can you actually say when you reach out? So super valuable stuff. And so that is locked. That section is locked until you refer at least one other creator. And so I think it's like, again, it's not more, it's different. That is a different type of data that I'm providing. And again, it's inline. So there's the FOMO aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Go ahead,
that.
Matt.
I think finding something beyond the lead magnet is going to be a really effective strategy. And what Justin, to have a counterpoint, what Justin just said, especially about the SparkLoop referral section, is that is the way to have a compelling like list referral upgrade to get people to start to grow your list internally without having to rely as much on like, okay, well, I'm going to do a lot of this external content. You should do both, but let your biggest fans be the ones who are also promoting you in a natural way that makes it a win-win for both of them. I do want to say that I have seen that lead magnets are still effective. And if you're getting kind of stuck and thinking like, oh, I have to do like all these things to have an effective like referral program, or I have to get into the creator network, or I have to like write all of these threads or whatever it might be, still doing some type of checklist or download is like a good first step for giving people a compelling reason to opt into your content. It could be a worksheet. There's a lot of different things, because I do think it's more effective than the standard like, hey, sign up to my newsletter I send it out every Thursday or whatever day it is. Whenever I see that, unless you just happen to already be some type of like, celebrity, even in the social media sense, it's just not going to work. You need to have a compelling reason. Yes, a specific niche, oftentimes something that lets the potential reader kind of like mentally raise their hand and be like, that's me, and that's a thing that I want. So if you can kind of like close the loop on both of those things, like who is this for and why do they want it, then that is a good way for starting to identify the specific reader that you want to have and a compelling reason for them to do an initial sign up.
Cool. That's good insight. I think having your 1,000 true fans, the old classic strategy is a really good one to leverage, and with a referral program that definitely helps. So are there any other effective growth tactics? We've talked lead magnets a bit, a little bit about referral campaigns. Are there any other effective growth tactics that you guys have seen recently that have been working well, or something that maybe you've always been doing that's worked really well?
Yeah. So for me, like, man, manually DMing people. Like,
yes.
talk about stuff that
hustle.
Literally does not. Yeah. Talk about the stuff that literally doesn't scale. From the early days, how I would get people from social media to join my newsletter is when they would follow me, I would do this very quick assessment. I would look at their profile. I would say, does this person look like they are a creator trying to make money from their online presence? You can see that you could find this out pretty easily. Like, do they have a link tree? If their URL is like a link tree linking to their other social platforms, or they're posting content where it's like, very clearly they're trying to be some sort of, creator doing this thing. Like, that is a person who I think would be a good candidate for my list. And so I would DM them. I literally had like a text expander, like the little short code thing on my thing, where it was like a little thing. It was personalized though. I would say I would have like a little thing where it said name, and I would manually type it in, and I would say, hey, Matt, hey, Dylan, hey, Jessica, whatever it is. Thank you so much for the recent follow. Also, if it might be helpful, I have a weekly newsletter where I share paid sponsorship opportunities. That's it. And I have never used like what's called like Tweet Hunter or like any of those tools or whatever where they do the manual or the auto DM thing.
Auto
DM, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I have found that like people are really surprised because you can't automate names for with those, right? Like people's first names and stuff. And so, or at least reliably. And so I took the effort even to the point where like if their name, sometimes their name is not obvious on their profile. So I would go to the point where I would click through to their Instagram or click through to their YouTube channel. I would watch like 15 seconds, 30 seconds of their video, figure out their name, and then put their name in the chat or in the DM. And people are always super like, wow, how'd you find my name? Or like, they're really surprised. And so the conversion of people actually to getting those DMs to actually joining the newsletter, that to me has been, again, not super scalable, but super effective, especially in the beginning.
Especially if you find that you have a potentially high value niche, which is a great place to be in. Because when you think about like, who can I reach? Who can I like pre-share some content and some strategies with? Who, this is especially like, we're doing this with the agency because what we're looking for in terms of like creators who are good fits for our newsletter service are people who like have built an audience. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a content backlog, but as I'm going through, I'm saying like, hey, this is what we do. This is some of my experience. I also I think you'd be a really good fit for this, but I also have a regular newsletter that shares growth strategies and things that I'm learning from clients that I only share. Like, I kind of like pitch, this is another like unconventional thing, but I found to be really effective is I kind of pitch it as like, there's only 50 people on this list because every single one of them are people that I believe can be like a really like impactful, not just client for us, but also like, I'm only emailing this to you because I think it can help you, make an extra 50 grand this year. It can help you grow your audience. And so like, there's like a reverse aspect to this is like, you have a mailing list, maybe it's only 100 people, but there's 100 people that I know that I could have a big impact on. And that doesn't just have to be from a service perspective, because like, as Justin was saying, just going, you will be shocked in your life if you spend an extra 10 to 15 minutes doing background on someone. It will deliver exponentially in terms of like feedback and wow factor and ability to like connect with someone than just like doing the auto DM at scale. That's fine. You want to you want to be on Twitter and say like, reply with, hell yeah, to get the template like that works. But if we're just saying like, hey, 1-to-1, that extra 10 minutes to dial in is going to be like really, really effective. And you're going, even if they don't sign up, even if you never work with them, you're going to like leave a good impression on someone.
Can I real quickly? I just want to put a bookend to that real quickly. And this is perhaps a little bit controversial, but it's something that I feel pretty strongly about. You're talking about growth. Is that?
Ooh, let's hear it.
I believe that the newsletters that grow, or the people that actually are able to generate like lots of interest, lots of shareability, is when you generate unique ideas, not when you are just simply curating other people's stuff. There's lots of newsletters out there who are sharing news articles or sharing, breakdowns of other creators. Like those can be like helpful, especially if you're putting your own spin on that. But there's a lot of newsletters that I feel are not really generating a lot of unique ideas, because especially you're wanting to monetize the newsletter in other ways, not just with sponsorships, which is more of a volume or scale play, with coaching or courses or whatever, people joining your membership or whatever it is, people want to buy things from people, not just from faceless people who curate links. And so like, I just wanted to encourage like anyone in the chat here. I'm not subtweeting anyone, by the way. This is just like a belief that I have, is that if you want to be deriving income from your newsletter with these downstream revenue opportunities, that you should be mixing in your unique take on stuff, especially within your niche.
Yeah.
I wish I could disagree with you.
I like that.
Boo.
That's a nice contrarian take of, you should have a contrarian take.
Yes,
of your
perfect.
Newsletter. I like it. So you touched on monetization too a little bit there, Justin. So I'd be curious what both of you are seeing, because I know, Matt, you do work with a lot of podcasters, right?
Yes.
When you're creating newsletters too. So what are different ways that creators are missing out on from a monetization aspect with their newsletters, whether they're podcasters or whether they are YouTubers or Instagram?
Nothing will
creators.
convert better than email for a sale. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. That's
it.
what you're missing out on. Like, the only like caveat I would put on this, and Justin would know better than me because this is his world, is that because often the email subscribers are at a lower scale by percentage and just in general than like all the other social platforms, you may not be able to generate the same sponsorship dollars unless you're like, Sahil Bloom or Tim Ferriss or James Clear, blah, 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 the heavyweights. So just the overall numbers, but I was just going to say this like quick case study that just happens. Like, we had a client do his first launch at the beginning of April. And this is somebody who has 70,000 email subscribers, solid list, good list. Everyone would love that list. Sure. But he probably has, I think I counted up about 700,000 social followers across Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. 95% of his sales came through email, came through his email list. So something that is a tenth of the overall size, is there overlap? Yes, blah, blah, blah. Something that is a tenth the size of his social following drove over 90% of the sales. And this wasn't just a little launch. He ended up doing 800 sales and 120K, and over 90% of them came directly through email. So nothing will convert better than email when it comes to like finally monetizing, especially asking for a direct sale for a course, product, service. So that's what you're missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, I can give my own example. Is when I launched my my second course called Gifted to Paid, which is focused especially on creators kind of at the outset of their journey, who are getting a bunch of free stuff offered to them from brands like, oh, software, like, just post about us. How does that creator finally articulate to a brand or a partner, like, hey, you actually have to pay me for this, right? How do you get from 0 to 1, basically? And so this course was dedicated specifically to that topic, and my first kind of on-demand evergreen program, to contrast to my cohort-based course. And I literally did not promote the course launch at all on social media. Zero. I made 0 posts about it, and I made $19,000 in 5 days on the launch. And my list was about 5,000 at that time. I think maybe a little bit less. So it's like meaningful numbers, like for a, roughly, like for not doing that many emails. I mean, I think I did maybe 10 emails or so over those 5 days. Like it was a heavy launch, like for sure. But just generally, I think that to echo Matt's point, like email to me has become such a important engine to my business. And again, I did not turn on sponsorships in my newsletter until about 6 months ago. Consciously, I was like, okay, I'm gonna double down on content because I'm selling my own stuff. But like, you know what? Now I have this perspective that a lot of people say, I sell my own stuff, my own products, all this stuff. So I don't want to really take sponsors, because it's like, why am I going to do that? It's like going to take away sales from my personal stuff. And that's the wrong way to look about it. You have to have a service mindset where you're serving your audience, because there's lots of things that you're never going to sell. But when going back to this whole psychographic conversation where you understand what are the problems that your audience is having, what's keeping them up at night, there's probably other either tangential, ancillary, or orthogonal products or services that you're never going to sell. But if you were to expose your audience through a sponsorship, it's a win-win-win. You're winning, you're getting paid. The brand is winning because they're getting to access the new ideal customers of theirs. And then your audience is winning because they're going to look at you as someone who told them about this awesome thing that also really helps. And so it's not an either or in my perspective. It's like, you have to look at your holistic business. How can I serve them? And if it's not with my stuff, I need to go out there and find other brands and products that I can serve this other area of the business that'll also help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that creates the confidence and the credibility and just coming to you for those resources too, right? You'll be looked upon as that. So I like that. Let's take a few questions from the audience here. So I think these are in order of who asked first, but forgive me if they're not. Andrew asked, what is the tipping point for number of subscribers to begin monetizing or getting sponsors? If you want me to read that again, I can.
I'll let Justin take the lead on this one.
Is that mine? Okay. So 0. you guys know maybe you don't know my perspective about this.
Yeah.
But my I have a video on my YouTube channel called How to Get Sponsorships with 0 Followers or 0 Subscribers. Because what you're pitching when you're a smaller newsletter or smaller creator is not, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to like talk about your brand or your product on my newsletter to my 25 subs. It's not going to move the needle for them. What you're going to show them is, hey, I can actually help you create awesome content for your blog or for your newsletter. I'm going to generate this content for you. I'm going to give you a weekly newsletter, much like Matt is doing. It's a DFY, service. Yeah, it's going to be $5,000 a month, $7,000, $2,000 a month, whatever it is. But I think you can be telling your brand story in a very compelling way with the written word, with a newsletter. I can help you do that. Hey, by the way, go check out my blog, which is my portfolio. So that's what your newsletter is when you're at the beginning of your journey, is your portfolio. And so your pitch has to change. And so creators come to me all the time. What is the threshold? How many subscribers? What do I have to get to? But everyone thinks that a sponsorship is just like, brand pays me, I talk about them on my own platforms. But the whole point of like coaching people and teaching this content is understanding that like helping brands achieve their own objectives can take a lot of different forms. And that is a sponsorship. The brand is paying you money to help them accomplish their own objectives. So I know, again, it's kind of like I'm not trying to be facetious with my response, but truly, like you can provide value to brands regardless of where you're at, but you do need to have some sort of like foundational body of work that you can point to be like, I know what I'm doing. This is my credibility.
Makes sense. I would agree. So if you didn't have an audience of subscribers, how would you send out a newsletter or a value like how would you work with a brand? Say you're just starting out and you're like, maybe you have a little bit of an Instagram audience or YouTube. So you've got a few thousand subscribers. How would you pitch that in a newsletter form? Like say, it would obviously have to be a video that drives people there. Or am I missing something?
Was this directed at Matt or me?
Either of you.
Yeah, I think what I remember, because I specifically remember, Justin, you talking about this on Jay Klaus's Creator Science podcast. And this was when I was listening to this, it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And what I'm hearing on this specifically is like, if you have low to no audience numbers, then what you can still do is basically create branded content on behalf of the sponsor. And while you're doing that, what I would say is build back in reverse the process that you're doing your back end to show potential readers and then potential sponsors as well. Like, hey, here's how I went about this. Here's what I learned. Here's something that was really specific as a takeaway that like drove more engagement, because what you're giving them is content that they can use, the brand that is, over and over again. So you can kind of act as like a promoter, ghostwriter, like video creator on their behalf. And then you're not constrained at all by your audience size. But the way that, to me, when you're doing this, it's like building the back end of a newsletter or social content that kind of shows people, including like not just audience members, but then future sponsors and partners, this is what it's like to work with me, and this is the kind of stuff that I can do. So I think like it gets a little meta based on the niche, whatever niche you might be in. But when I think about monetizing with a zero audience, then like that's, if I'm remembering correctly, Justin, that's what always like stuck out to me.
Yeah. By the way, you don't have to do this in a vacuum. You might think, well, what brands would be interested in something like this? Go look at their job boards. See if they're posting for a content marketing manager. Analyze the description. They're trying to get help, but they literally are listing out all their objectives of what they're hoping this person in this role would be. You reach out and you say, hey, I can do this for you on a freelance basis. You don't have to hire a full-time employee. You can do it with me. Here's how I can serve you. Boom, 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 boom. Set up Google alerts of like some of your favorite targets of brands and companies that you think you could do this for. Like this it's not rocket science. Like you can help. Brands need help. They seriously, we think brands and companies have it all figured out. Believe me, they do not, right? And so like Dylan, this is kind of meta, but like when you got your new role with SparkLoop, right, where you're helping with marketing and content and all this stuff too, I don't know exactly how it went down, but like I would like venture to guess that like you had your own newsletter. So I'm sure it's probably not the type of thing where they were thinking like, oh, Dylan would be interested in this role. Like it probably took you, I'm assuming, probably took you reaching out saying, hey, I would be interested in this, for that conversation to actually start. And so the onus is on you actually as a creator, as a business owner, as an online entrepreneur to reach out and pitch this to brands, because a lot of companies will be like, oh, I didn't even know you'd be interested in something like that.
Right. Yeah. The assumptions are always made on both ends too, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll let everybody just kind of guess how that whole thing shook out with me, but you're not far off. So following up on this question, Blair asked something sort of similar. What is the main source of income for your newsletters, and what would you suggest our focus be for monetizing? And we kind of touched on that a little bit, but for me, what comes down to monetization with newsletters is you've got the ads and sponsorships aspect, you've got selling your own products and services, and then you've got affiliate deals that can kind of play a role there too. So those are kind of the three buckets that I look to. I'm probably missing a few, like donations and tips and patronage or subscriptions, but I'll let you guys answer that from your perspective.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I think we've touched on it, so I'll put it succinctly that I'll also answer it from the perspective as someone, like before I started like running newsletters for other people. For me personally, the main source of income from the newsletter was from course launches and other digital products. Now downstream from that, I would also have an upsell sequence that if you bought the course, then you could book coaching for me, or you'd have multiple tiers within the course itself. So there's like self-service courses, there was cohort courses, there were like premium coaching tiers to those courses, or just like regular one-on-one coaching. So it was still like the coaching courses model, and then adding in sponsorships and adding in some community features, and like did that for a little bit as well. But I think that you should explore like all of those strategies and tactics and see what is the best fit for your audience. What is the thing that you're most interested in doing? And I'll also like, not to bring up our buddy Jay again, but I found it really I found it really compelling when Jay and Justin went over, Justin, your offer ladder, your offer ladder pretty recently, because that's really what you want to build in, because you're trying to say like, what can I offer people that's under $100, then around like $500, $1,000, and so on and so forth. But that's the primary way, but you can also do a community element, and there's of course the sponsorships as well.
All right, I'm gonna come back with another hot take. Ready? You cannot be myopic and believe that, like, look at newsletters in a vacuum. Your newsletter is a channel for you to serve your audience, in addition to all these other different content mechanisms, right? Whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or a membership or whatever it is, social media, whatever, there's all these different ways in which you can serve your audience, whether you're like an education type creator where you're actually teaching people something, or you're an entertainment, right? You can kind of split hairs there. But like when I, for example, if a sponsor comes to me and they have a conversation around what their objectives are, and we're trying to do brand awareness, we're trying to drive sales on this particular thing or whatever, what I'm thinking here in my mind is like, what are the different things in my arsenal that I can offer them to help serve the brand, but also serve my audience? And so if the brand tells me that conversions, that's what we really care about, trial signups for our software, whatever, then I'm going to go pretty heavy on newsletter, right? Because I can have direct attribution. I'm probably going to go heavy on Instagram stories, where I can have link stickers on every frame, right? Because that is the goal of what we're trying to accomplish with this particular project. Contrast that with if it's like, oh, it's a brand awareness play, it's just like a product launch or a new feature or something like that for the sponsor, then I'm going to go, top of funnel. I'm going to go YouTube. I'm going to go podcasts. I'm going to go these other channels where you get more impressions and so on. And so again, that's just from the sponsorships perspective, but like, that is how I think about serving my audience, like with courses and products and all this stuff too, is like, what is the channel that I can best deliver this information and serve people? And so again, I know we're talking just about newsletters, but I really encourage people to think about your newsletter as one component of a larger way in which your business runs.
As a whole, all-encompassing aspect of your content strategy, which I really like. There's one more question here from, I lost it. I believe it's from Nathan. I have a social media-centric email list from a product I own of around 2 million. I believe the 2M probably stands for million. Didn't do a great job of engaging them over the years. Initial tests to convert them to to my newsletter are decent, around 25 to 40%, but low click-through rate of 0.3% or less. What kind of value approaches have you seen work to re-engage, build trust in a list like this? And how long would you recommend I do this before making the sign up for my newsletter ask? And don't beat him up about the sign up for my newsletter ask, but you get the gist of what he's asking.
Right. I would say that if you have a compelling reason to ask from the first email that you want to re-engage them with. We do this for clients all the time. We're currently re-engaging a popular podcaster who hadn't emailed his list in quite a long time. It has 70,000 subscribers. And just start with a very simple, like 4 to 5 email campaign saying like, hey, this is what's been going on. This is what I'm doing. Like you just start to re-engage them like naturally. But in that, you're being very upfront saying like, hey, I'm starting this newsletter. I'm committed to it. It's going to be coming out weekly. This is who it's for. If you like click here, I will often do like a re-engagement lead magnet. So like we worked with an author to re-engage her list, and great author. And when these people re-engage, we also send a free chapter of like her latest book. So it doesn't have to be as simple. It doesn't have to be as like kind of meh as like, hey, sign back up. It's like, do you want to receive this extra bonus from me? So I would start asking right away. And there are two clarification questions that I would ask you about this, Nathan, is like one, when they signed up initially, what kind of like opt-in did they have? Because if they opted in naturally, even if it like in a good, like approved upfront way, and they weren't just like scraped off the internet or a social network, then it's fine to like keep engaging them as long as you are willing to pay the fee that comes with like hosting that many subscribers. But the other thing that I would just clarify for you is I think that if you haven't engaged them very well, but you're still getting a 25 to 40% open rate, that's pretty solid. So I would take that as like a good indicator that there's at least still some interest. And I would just kind of keep poking at them in a helpful way for as long as you feel like able to do it. And the way that I would do that is my last thing. The way that I would do that is sending a monthly digest of your newsletter to them. So like we do this with like everyone that we're re-engaging a list for, even once like the main part of the list has reactivated and re-engaged and we're rolling on a weekly newsletter, we'll also send a monthly digest to the people that we still want to re-engage. They haven't gone like totally cold yet. Again, like there's still some activity though, even though they haven't opted back into the main newsletter. Okay, they can always unsubscribe as well. Like that's important to note. Say like, hey, here's the newsletter this month that got the most replies, and here's a couple of things that I shared on my favorite social media channel. So it's just like, it's a digest, it's a recap of the creator's month. And it's like, hey, if you want to start getting every email again, just click here and you'll be added to the weekly newsletter again. So that's what I do with clients when it comes to re-engaging old and cold email lists. But the two clarifying questions that I would always start with is like, how did they initially opt in? Was it on the up and up? I'm just gonna like assume yes. And if you're still getting like some decent opens and they're not unsubscribing, they can always unsubscribe. Just keep that in mind. Like if you're getting decent opens, then I would, just kind of like keep casually reaching out to them and saying like, hey, I have this weekly thing. Just want to let you know about it.
All right, I have 2 comments about what I would do in your situation, Nathan. Number 1 is I would, like, as soon as possible, fix the onboarding experience for new people who are joining the list. So yeah, you may not have engaged this existing list, but like you can fix that now. Make sure that the experience of new people who are buying the product and joining your list, it's very clear that they're going to be joining your newsletter and that they're going to be receiving marketing communications as long as they opt into that. Like just make sure like so that you don't have to go back and like fix those people, re-engage those people as well. Just like fix the entry point initially. I think that's an important exercise. But then the second thing is that at least for me, I have found that like just being really transparent and honest about asking people like what type of valuable things would you like me to send you? Or it could even be, it sounds like it's maybe a physical product business. Like I'm working on product development for a product that's complementary to this thing you bought or the next iteration or version of this thing. Hit reply to this email and tell me what you would like to see from me. Like something as simple as that, where you start engaging more and kind of sharing the behind the scenes of starting to re-engage with these people. And, you get responses to that first email. And then in the next email, you screenshot those responses to show that people are actually responding and just start getting more of a pulse check on the community. I think that doing that exercise could probably reap dividends in terms of engendering that personal connection and touch that as you start to re-engage that community.
I like it.
Great points.
That's awesome. Some solid advice from 2, dare I say, gurus.
I'll take guru. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I didn't call myself it,
okay.
so someone else called me it, so I'll take it.
Where's the crowd noise?
Other people
okay,
would say. Other people would say.
There we go. That's for you. That's for you.
For those who haven't clued in, Justin has his own soundboard.
I have a soundboard. Yes.
Has very much used, which I love. So we're right up against time. So I want to thank you guys for hopping on here and chatting about all this with me and with us. And so I'm going to paste in here a few links for your newsletters and stuff like that, but just maybe quickly share where people can kind of find you, maybe the best place to reach out to you is.
Go ahead, Matt.
So you can find me on Twitter at Matt Ragland. And then the best place to learn about the Automatic Evergreen service is to go to yourweekly.email. That's where you can find all the information about our complete done-for-you email newsletter service. We also work a lot on course launches. So if you're already running a newsletter and you like doing that, but you want to launch a product, that's another piece that we handle. It's usually like we build your newsletter, then we launch product, or we launch product and we keep your newsletter going. That's us.
Dope. Great to be here with you, both Dylan and Matt. It was a great conversation. As I'm going to stay true to my word, the only place that you can find me is my newsletter, creatorwizard.com/join. That's it. That's the only place. If you really want to stay updated on it and you want to find and negotiate your dream sponsorships, creatorwizard.com/join.
Okay, I will not share your YouTube channel or your website.
Can I make a little point? Because a little point? Because I'm going to very much contradict myself by sharing my Twitters. What Justin just did is what anytime people ask me like, hey, how do I increase my email growth? How do I increase my newsletter subscribers or conversions? Without fail, I'll go to their social media pages and there's a link tree, or it's like to some general page of the website. And it's not necessarily like if your website page is optimized for email subscribers, but the number one thing that will help you grow your email list is to make everything you do about growing the email list. And Justin just did a fantastic job of that. Another person that I've used as a case study for this is James Clear, who I mentioned earlier. Go to his Twitter, go to anywhere. Like the only page that you go to is his email sign up. And the only thing that you can do on that is sign up for emails. It's not like, hey, check out my other social channels. You can do all of that once they get on the list. But I just wanted to call that out.
Well, this is how seriously I take it. Is I have turned down sponsorships with link in bio tools because part of the partnership was going to be that I had to use their tool in my bio, and I say no, sorry. The only thing that I have in my bio is my newsletter, and I'm not having a link tree. I'm not having anything. So like that's how seriously I take it.
I like it. And we didn't even get into the fact that I think Instagram lets you post multiple links in your bio now, which is a whole other can of worms. But anyway, thanks guys for coming. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody for listening, and we will send out a replay of this probably tomorrow sometime. So you don't have to send an email asking if there will be one. There will be. There always will be. And have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll catch you in the Twitterverse. I mean, in your newsletter.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See you guys. Bye.